And we're going back on. So my stream connection kind of was just like, you're not connected anymore. I'm like, oh, fine. Okay, whatever. So now I'm doing another live. And we'll see if I my buffer on here. So I'm doing my hotspot. So it's one of those like kind of iffy little things. But yeah, basically we were talking about the sexual 5 and like 4s and forward. My train of thought kind of went out of the way. And like even like the 3s, like I have a 3 wing that when I'm at work, I can be a little bit and put on a burner because stuff needs to get done. And I have had moments where like I'm very emotional and I spent an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours lamenting to myself and feeling all my feelings. And then I looked at myself, I'm like, Brennan, come on. You spent the past 3 hours whining to yourself and doing nothing about it. Like, we got stuff to do. Come on. Let's go. But then there's also like the 5 and the 5 wing of me that's like when I'm feeling my emotion being all like emotionally like sad and dramatic, and then there's a part of me that's just like, okay, how do you feel about this though? How do you think about how you feel? Do you really feel like you're just, you know, feeling all those feelings inside? How do you feel about it? Like, yeah, you're sad, but like, are you really just, how do you move past that essentially? So that's pretty much how I feel about the typings, at least with my wings, with having the 5 and the 3. So yeah, 5s and 3s are my neighbors essentially, and I mean you're a 5, at least my incent one end was a 5, on my previous stream that I had earlier today. We were talking, he's like, oh, sexual 5, and we were talking about that. So but yeah, I guess going forward to talk a little bit more, I'm still feeling pretty good about myself. Like it's almost 11 o'clock in the morning. Let's just power on through doing another live stream. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about this book that I have beside me because this is the primary book that I've got introduced to through my 5 coach my 5 anime coach that I had. And not gonna lie, I took the class because I thought freaking hot. And like, if she was single and I was single, like I'm single, but like if she was single and not married, I might be wanting to do things with her. Point being said, not to say like I wouldn't be doing stuff, but like I'd be intrigued in her, to be honest. And like in this book, I've had a lot of things written down. Like I have highlightings, I have no notes up on top, I have things are written all throughout here. So it's kind of hard to like. I've used it. I'm gonna go through season 2 eventually on my channel, using this book as my basis, as my season 2 like layout of the typings. Once I get past all the terminology and like laying the framework for learning the Enneagram. So give me one more moment, guys. I have to mute my mic for just one moment. But yeah, so I guess talking about the 4, I opened up to the page in the Enneagram's guide to I wrote back to you, where Ian is talking about like being a 4 and emotional transformation as a 4. Emotional transformation is 4. As part of the feeling triad, the 4's journey towards spiritual health and vitality will involve doing some work in this realm. They must learn how to regulate and stabilize their emotions. It's hard at first, but fours must figure out how to observe and detach from their feelings rather than exaggerate them, wallow in them, or act them out impulsively. To do this, fours need to cultivate what's called equanimity, a sorely ignored virtue in the Christian tradition. Equanimity refers to the ability to remain emotionally composed and steady regardless of what's happening around us. Remember, feelings are like waves on the surface of the ocean. Don't attach or identify with them, but with the vast ocean beneath them. More than once in my life, I've had to say to myself, I am not my feelings. I think that's the biggest thing for like the 4 and having the wings beside me, like the 3 and the 5, because I can be in my emotions a lot. I can wallow, and we are back indeed. We are back indeed up in here. Yes, we are. But like having the let's edit this right, Brandon. There we go. So like pendulum and having really you're on a swing is unstable. Are we still alive? Hotspot, please. Well, I can't win them all. Let's see if I'm still on here. Are we on? Oh, I'm trying to make a video. Let's see if I'm on. Are we on? We are on. I hear myself. Yeah, there we go. We're good. We're good. All right, I'm gonna turn you off, Brandon. I don't need to hear two of you. I'm gonna be so confused hearing myself in the feed and hear myself again in the feed. Like it's like in the Matrix. But like as a 4, I'm very emotional. I'm very flippant on my emotions, and also like having my numbers beside me, the 5 and the 3, helps me then be more stable because 3s are more action oriented. They're more and their emotions get stuff on. That's their feelings last. I think they've often said when I think of the 3s, their action, head second, and feelings last because they're detached from their heart, being in the unpinged triad, which is the 6, the 3, and the 9, the triangle in the Enneagram. Because basically, like they're in the center of their triad, and what that means is they have a harder time than the other typings beside them wrestling with their core struggle or feeling their feelings in the types of the 3 or feeling anger in the type of the 9. So in the case of the 9, or the 6 is being outside of their own head, and they're not, they're ruled by fear, but they don't realize they're living in that fear as a 6, and so they're often another center first. 9s, I think it's head, feeling, and then body last. With the 3s, it's body, head, feeling last. And with the 6s, I believe it's feeling first, body second, and then head last. Or it's body first, feeling second, head last. I'm not sure. But they also say they're unpinged because they have their numbers and their triad beside them as their wings. Versus for me, having the 5 wing, I have another triad to lean on. And so with me being volatile and emotional, having that 5 beside me be like, hey, let's kind of think this out first. You're kind of feeling your feelings a lot right now. And, I get it that your feelings you feel angry. Like earlier today, I was angry because somebody said something and I tone I didn't like. And I think I was angry about that for a little while, but I was like, Brandon, you're angry over something that somebody said. That wasn't even towards you. Come on. Like, let's go. And then like having the wing that's 3 beside me, like when I need to get stuff done, like to hammer in to get hustling. I'd like to know more about you all. As a 4, what's your relationship with sarcasm? I mean, I have a hard time with sarcasm, to be honest. Like, I'll get into the conversation about my feelings later because my feelings aren't important. But like, my feelings of my emotions, my relations with sarcasm, like I could be very sarcastic, and normally my sarcasm is more just like somebody says something, I'm just like, no, really, like over the top, like really sarcastic. But then I have moments where like I'm sarcastic in terms of like I'm not trying to be sarcastic, it just kind of happens. Like for example, this is me being sarcastic. I don't like Starbucks. Starbucks. I don't like Starbucks, but but I love dry humor. Like my favorite type of humor is like the deadpan, like dry humor where it's just like you're not playing it as a joke, you're actually serious, but it's kind of funny. So, and even like my social person in my life that I've had, like I'm not very sarcastic with them because they don't really get sarcasm, and I don't really get sarcasm sometimes either. And sometimes with them, it's like they're more physical than I'm used to. Like I work with them at the park job that I've had, and like sometimes with them, like I remember last year we have a little meet and greet spot with all of our characters that often we've been in together. Normally, I'm the one kind of overseeing, like the one kind of like controlling the space, and they're in character over there. And there's times where like they're very physical, like they'll grab my hat that I wear and like pull it off and run around with it, and I'm chasing them down. And then I have moments where like I say something kind of off wall, like not meaning to be funny or like off the wall, but like I say it like almost like seriously. Like one time I had a hoodie on and it was so big it went over my eyes. Like, oh, it's kind of dark in here. I just said it like nonchalant, like, and then she started busting in the gut laughing. And they were like, it's just so hard for you to, it's just so hard to take you seriously, Brandon. I'm just like, what? I'm serious? What? What? Me serious? No, I'm not serious. But then it would be like, yeah, I'm 100% serious. Totally serious. Yeah, I'm not having a cow about it or anything, but like, where did it go? Oh, it's way down here. I'm not having a cow about it, but they gave me a cow. So now I have a cow. Yeah. I legit have a cow now. A big cow. Called Spots. So how do I think about chasing four, like a sexual four? Do fours place great importance on being pursued as an object of desire? I think fours wrestle with that to some degree. I know often you read about in the books fours have a push-pull dynamic with people. Like I'll pull you in and I'll push you away. Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that how and like even Tony who said they're like kind of like cats or like they're kind of cuddly and then they'll just like meow and then they'll run off and whatever. I think fours typically are like that, but sometimes fours, especially the sexual four, they want to be chased and be desired, and often their pull is like their magnetic like attraction. And even like myself, as a person, even though we're not like dating at all, like with them, I want to be their all in all. Like, and sometimes I'll like say something to kind of like get them to chase, like open up that dialogue where I'm just like, hey, maybe maybe I'm not gonna be around next year. Maybe I'm be around next year. Not saying anything to like put fear in their heart or anything, but like I want them to be like, oh, I miss you. Like, why aren't you going to be around next year? I want to. That's the pull that I want from them. Or one time there was this girl I was interested in at work that the other side of me was just like totally disregarding their coworker and it's like I'm going to chase this and I want this to happen. And I sat somewhere different from where I normally sat, and I was hoping that by me sitting apart from them, they would come and sit next to me. They didn't. And I was like, well, them then, And I got mad. But then I would have been mad if they chased me at some point too. Like, so. But yeah, I think every 4 has that like type of wanting to be desired. And even the other instincts, like self-pres 4 wants that pull, that push-pull. They want to be chased because, oh, look at how much you suffered as a 4. Like, oh, you've gone through, I don't know, World War III or something like that. You've gone through like the Great Depression. You've gone through hardship. You've gone through turmoil, and you're still okay. Like, tell me more about that. Tell me more about your life. That's how they may operate. Let me adjust my legs here. Ugh. There we go. Sorry, I was like sitting cross-legged for a while, so I'm gonna have this kind of like leg sprawl type now, just so I can kind of be a little more like mobile. I'm sitting on my bed right now doing this video. So, but yeah, I think a lot of the 4s have this push-pull dynamic, and social 4 wants somebody to be rescued. Sorry, wants to be rescued. Excuse me. They need to be rescued by somebody. And so often that means for them, oh, my CVS pharmacy notification. Cool. Like normally what that means for them is like when they're being chased by somebody, they want somebody to rescue them. Like, oh, look at me. I need help. Look at how much my life sucks. No to me. Like, I've done all this stuff and nobody seems to care. Like, and they want you, as they're complaining to you because they're a reactive type, and they want somebody to wallow with them. They want to be rescued by somebody, but then even like me as a 4, like the sexual 4, like I want to be the rescuer too. Like, oh no, I'm here to help you. Like, look at me. Like, I'm here to help you. You need me. Like, I've done all this stuff for you. Like, and if I pull away, I want that kind of same. I want that same thing to a degree. I want to be chased. I want to be pursued. I want to be desired by somebody. But like I don't actively work to like engage in that sometimes. Sometimes this is something I do subconsciously. And a thing that I thought I wasn't doing that I'm doing, like, oh, hey. So yeah. And that's kind of how I think a lot of 4s may feel in that dynamic. I don't know if other types, maybe 2s would do it too, like have a similar give and take thing. But for them, it's more about their acts of kindness. And 2s want to like, I scratch your back, scratch mine, but I'm not gonna tell you my back itches. You should know that because I know when your back itches, and I can see it in you. So they want to be chased and reciprocated with their desires, like when their back itches. They don't have to like be like, hey, could you help me with this? They just, because they automatically know when somebody needs help, they expect that that is treated to them the same way. And I can be a little bit like that too at times where, case in point, I'm at work and I have a whole lot of stuff going on where the boss wants me to be here and here and here and here, and I have like a bazillion things a bazillion things to do, and I am like in my mind like neck deep, and I'm just struggling to not go under the water that way. I'm neck deep in this, and my face is frazzled, and I'm just kind of like out of it. I hope they would realize, oh, maybe he needs help, and that they would help me. That they'd chase me to help me. But then I'd also be mad if they help me anyway. So like, I'm mad that I'm neck deep and I'm all alone, but I'm mad if they help me because it's not the help that I want, in that moment. So, Brandon, what the freak? That kind of approach. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the times, at least with me, like I've realized I am, or like I've said, I'm like a diva, like a schoolgirl. I have that fluctuating like moments where I can be sweet and charming, and I can be a little stuck up female dog. I would say the word on the live stream, but I'm not gonna say it because I want to be PG-13. But if I was editing this, I would totally censor the word because I can say what I want on a video that I'm recording because, feck those censors. But yeah, I mean, like, and I had those moments where I realized, oh, I'm just acting like this, I'm acting like a total curty person. And you're welcome, by the way. And you're welcome, by the way, knowing about how, yeah, yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, I think a lot of the time with us as like fours, like especially me as the sexual four, like I get angry a lot. I'm going through things like that week at work. I noticed I was kind of angry a lot, and I really wanted somebody to help me, but I never asked them for help because in my mind it's to be evident that I need help. You should just know I need help. You can clearly see I need help here. Why aren't you helping me? But then I'd be mad if they help me because it's not help that I want, or it's not the person I want to help me when I never even asked for anybody to help me. So, how are you? Come on, Brandon. Come on. Like, get real. Get a grip of yourself. And I feel like even like going back to what I said earlier in here with feelings, like Ian wrote in the chapter with the fours. Let's see if I can find it again. He wrote in here that the value, the virtue that the fours have to cultivate is equanimity, the ability to remain emotionally composed. Fours are not normally like that. We are the ocean, and the buoy on the ocean is running all over the place. The world is shaking and we're surviving in this. Like, all the emotions are like supersized. And we're just like, But having the ability to be able to be just cool and collected and calm, like having those moments where the emotions can finally take a back seat, to sit, the process, to hold them emotions is valuable. And remembering that, I am not my feelings. My feelings aren't my reality. I am not destined to be so all over the place. do sexual force time gratification and push-pull dynamics with people with whom they have a charged personal history with? Probably. I know with at least with myself, the person, like, I try not to do that with them. Solely because, like, in my dynamic, like, I'm the older person, and they see me as, like, almost like a big brother type of deal. But I do enjoy a little bit of that push-pull dynamic with them to some small degree, where, like, I want them to kinda chase me a little bit more so I know I have value to them. But it's manipulative if I think about it in that type of setting, like, where I wanna prove to you that I have value, and I mainly want myself to know I have value, and I want to prove that I have value to you, so that I know when I have my down days that, I'm not just some random person, some washed up has been. I matter. And this is gonna be a little heavy when I say this, guys. But, like, I wrestle with, like, some of the darker thoughts in life, like ending it, or like just going downhill and like getting involved in alcohol, like alcohol abuse and overdosing on pills, things like that. Like, I've wrestled with those feelings, and I'm having the feelings, but there's times where it's like when I think of my person, I'm just like, I can't do that to them. I can't hurt them like that. My friends, my coworkers, I mean, you know, f them. They don't care. They don't matter to me. But her, she matters a heck of a lot. And I don't want her to feel that way. And when I think of the push pull dynamic, I think of that kind of heightened extreme with them, which I try not to do with them because I feel like I'm manipulating them and that makes me feel kind of greasy and slimy. I don't like feeling slimy with them. So, but to some degree, like, I enjoy that push pull because I also want to feel like I'm seen and valued and I have worth. And mainly, like, when I think of my friends and family, like, there is some sort of, like, a little bit of that push-pull dynamic with them, where I don't always intend on, like, pulling away. Like, for example, I have friends on Snapchat I haven't Snapchatted in, like, 2 weeks with. I just don't care to open up the app and snap them. I'm not trying to pull away, but I'm pulling away from them, and they're still chasing me, like, and I'm just like, yeah, eh, I'll sorry, sorry guys, I'm not live stream, sorry I didn't snap you in like 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. I just I didn't care. But then I feel bad because I didn't like chase them back, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't chase them I didn't chase them to have that value received from them, to know that I had value. Because, I wrestle with worth and shame and value as a 4. And I know 5s wrestle with knowledge and being secure and having that, fighting their fear of not being equipped and handling everything. And I wrestle with that a little bit, not to the same degree as probably you do. But, like, for me, my fear is like, what if they leave me? What if they totally like leave me? And a part of me is just like, if they leave me, then what's the point of living? Like, that got really deep, but it's okay. It's all good. Sometimes when I had that push pull dynamic and I get to that level of like, if I push too far, they might leave. And so I wrestle with like not pushing, or maybe like almost, I guess there's a little bit of a playfulness. Like if I playfully do that, like I may playfully do something that makes kind of like chase me a little bit more. Like I'll tease a little bit about something that I know that they like. And I'll be like, hey, what do you think of the new FNAF movie? FNAF 3, I don't even know if it's a FNAF 3 in the works, but we're thinking FNAF 3, and like I know that like FNAF, and I say something and debate them into conversating with me about that because I know that makes them feel important and seen and valued. And or I'll say something that I know kind of irritates them a tiny little bit and hope they get a reaction from them. And I don't do it to be like a jerk. I don't try to be a jerk. I hope not a jerk. Am I a jerk? Am I a jerk? Oh, it's only me in here. I'm not talking to. Am I a jerk? Yeah, you were a jerk, Brandon. Shut up. I wasn't asking you. Settle down now. But yeah, like I mean, maybe other sexual fours will be different, and like they may find that gratification versus I don't really have that with them, with people that I have this history with, like a charged history with. And I think that's mainly autonomy and my own personal like fears that I have. If I was totally like on my own like feelings and living in my emotions and being more like aware of what I do, maybe that answer would be different. Because there's like I do kind of get gratification out of like being chased and pushing and pulling and having that like back and forth with. I do enjoy that with the right people, but I tend to be selective as who I do that with normally. And even like me and my boss at my park job that I have, like he says he's an 8. He also thinks it's a bunch of pseudoscience. So but he also likes to tease and like with coworkers, but like not like fight as in like abusively fight, but like he'll playfully tease or he'll like do something that kind of like he knows gets under somebody's skin just because he likes that banter. But 8s like that banter because it helps them connect, it helps them bond, it helps them have that connection with somebody. And I know when I'm angry at times and I like snap at somebody and they snap back, it's like, oh, they're real. There's a little bit of tension in here, like, ooh, like I said in the last live stream that I had before I switched over to this one, like me and her, not her as in my special person, but like me and a coworker, like had a little bit of a verbal fight. And we were both angry at different things, and we just took at each other and we're like, and then I'm just like, oh, that's real, like. And it was a good anger release, like for both of us. And I apologized first almost immediately after I snapped, and I was like, oh shoot, I did it again. We were dumpster diving, and I was up on top of the dumpster, like 20, 30 feet up. And no, you're fine. You're fine. Asking about like if it's too personal. No, you're fine. My mind went heavy with that. So my mind went heavy with that. That's that. I'm gonna finish my little story before I like switch to your question that you just had in the chat. So I think mainly like when I was angry with that person, I snapped at him, and then I realized when I was dumpster diving, and I was like 20, 30 feet up in the air. Sorry, I snapped. We good? And then like they're like, oh, it's okay. And then like later on they apologized to me and they were like, hey, I'm sorry if I like, I'm sorry I took my you. I was mad about something else. And I said, no, it was a good release, Val, for both of us. Like to have that anger, like to have that kind of tension. Because when I'm angry and I snap and then they snap back or I send some anger back at me, like it helps me see that they're a real person. Because anger can be kind of fusing for me. Like seeing when somebody's angry kind of excites me a little bit. Like not always like when I say excited, I don't mean like I get all like, ooh, exciting. Oh, they're angry. Oh. Like I don't get like that way normally. But like anger like is real. Like But then I think of an 8, and 8's kind of scary when they're angry. When it's like, oh, I'm like, ah, like, don't hurt me. Like, don't take, no, take it. I don't want it. Take it. Here's everything. Here's my wallet. Take the money. Take the card. Go. Don't yell at me. Like, like when I think of 8s and their anger, really carnal. I'm in like my master bedroom type of setup, and I have a carnal that's knocking on my window. Every time he's here, he's just like knocking on the window. Kind of irritates me sometimes. But like, anyway. So I apologize the recent question was too personal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears the sexual 4s are more sensitive to abandonment than other types are. That may be just like a thing of the 4s in particular. Like, I think 6s are that way too. Where 6s worry about being abandoned and being forsaken. But with 4s, it's a lot more the emotional undertones, whereas 6s are afraid of actually being abandoned by their friends or safety net. I mean, I would feel devastated if I saw the person left me. Emotionally. Like, I'll be fine, like, after, like, a year or 2. But, like, if I had no safety net, like, at all, like, if I was at work and my bosses let me in the fire, for example, and if I was a 6, like, I would be devastated. You know, because they pretty much threw me in the frying pan without any butter. And I would have no trust in them anymore at that point as a 6, if I was a 6. I think my tri-type is 4, 6, and 1. So, like, there's some of that, like, 6 energy in me. I also don't know if I was 4, 6, 1 or 4, 5, 1. I wasn't quite sure. So, I'm leaning towards 6, 1. I feel like I also talked about it in my tri-type video. So, but a lot more people focused, and 6s are tied in with the authority figures a lot of the times, or either they'll try to be the authority figure. And they are afraid of abandonment too. I have a coworker who I think is a 6. I think she's a counterphobic 6. And she's afraid of like being betrayed or being hurt by like the boss or like the higher ups, or being looked down upon, or being, mistreated by somebody higher than them. But the moment that there's no authority in the room, they try to become the authority figure. And if they don't want to be like betrayed by the underlings, or forsaken by underlings because, oh, now I'm the authority figure, like it's different. Like I have this authority, you have to respect my authority. Like, so, but then they flip back to being like the subservient once the bigger authority comes in the room. So I think they're a phobic 6. Between phobic and counterphobic, those two. I'm not sure how to really read them yet, but I'm pretty sure they're a 6. And they wrestle with abandonment too. It's just their abandonment is a lot more physically spaced, physically maintained, versus the 4s are a lot more the emotional abandonment, emotionalness. And maybe sexual 4s, I think, are a little more, I think social 4s are probably more sensitive to than the other subtypes of the 4. Like, self-pres would probably be like, yeah, you're gonna leave me. Okay. I never planned for you to be here for me anyway. Like, big whoop, let's go. I overcome stuff. I'll overcome this too. Versus the sexual form, they'd be like, you left me like everyone else did. Why'd you leave me? Get angry. But they're really just like sad about being left behind or left away. And the social form be like, nobody loves me because I'm just different and I'm so nobody cares. It's because I have a hair lip, my hair is just all over the place. I got a lazy eye, nobody's gonna care. It's because I got a lazy eye. They don't like me because I got a lazy eye. Versus the sexual form be more like, oh, you left me. Yeah? Yeah, you know what? Fine. I get all like, ah! I feel like that's the main difference between like how 4s may feel about it versus, other types may feel about it. I'm sure every type wrestles with that type of feeling too, not just like, the fours. I know we're talking about fours right now because I'm a four. If you didn't know, I'm a sexual four. Oh, look at me. I'm like, cuts me out. Like people watch me. Not taking myself too seriously here. I got some level of like being serious and non-serious. It's some level of that dichotomy. But you're fine. Like I'm always like kind of like personal. And I try to be like real authentic, but then it's a matter of like when I'm like in the moment and it hits me, like you can kind of tell I kind of stop. And the eyes kind of go, and I'm just like taking it all in for a minute, and I'm just like, oh, like the whole body changes, like. But I'm okay with having those hard feelings, those hard personal moments. Like it's all good. And I don't say anything that to make you feel like bad about it. Like I don't want you to feel bad. It helps other people see how to live life when I think other people are vocal about how they feel and authentic with that. I don't know how it feels to be like super inauthentic as a five, like how you feel about it and bottling feelings up. Like it makes me kind of sad for you at times, but I know fives tend to want to process stuff, like emotionally speaking. They want to process what they feel. They think about what they're feeling right now, and then they move forward. So, like, I get it. Like, you may wrestle with something, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, let me sit on it. And then you like 5 minutes, business days later, you're like, oh, I felt this way, and I'm gonna do this thing. Oh, okay. And then I would have been like immediately like, I feel this. I'm gonna go into this. Like, versus fives want to wait, they want to detach, they want to process. And I do some of that similarly. Like I journal a lot. I heavily engage in journal. It's something that I've done for years upon end. I didn't do it for a while when I was in foster care because I ended up, well, long story short, my journal that I wrote, I was writing in wasn't really safe around the people I was with because they thought something totally different from what I was reading in my journal and writing in my journal. And that led to us fighting, and I stopped journaling for a while because I was afraid I'd be hurt again. And years go by, I'm now on my own. I'm 19. I started journaling again. I've been journaling ever since then. I haven't recommend journaling. I think it's very vital for all of us to like learn the process to walk through life with. And even if it's just saying, "Oh, I did this thing today," like I went to work. I did this. I cleaned up a bathroom commode. I helped a woman across the sidewalk. I did a good deed. Things like that. Even if it's just saying I did something, or I looked outside and I watched the sunrise, or I watched a really nice sunset. Or I enjoyed ice cream. It doesn't need to be like really weighty or really much like ridden with emotions, like mine is. Although I spent days obsessing over people in my journal. Like literally, I had at one point when I was writing through like who I talk about in my journal, like just the tally. I I have had the issue where I ended up writing about somebody for like 20 straight pages. Obsessed. Obsessive, I know. The issue with fives is that we sometimes fear the emotional openness of fours. I get that. I get that. My personal sexual four is that as a sexual five, I admire their expression, but the emotional volatility can be sometimes make us withdraw or be flat out cold. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry you've had to feel that way. Sometimes as a thought, sometimes when I rate the types, I feel that way too with other types. So like I sometimes feel like fives just don't seem to care about my emotions. And I feel like eights would just not care that I'm feeling emotional. And they'd be like, suck up and deal with it, buttercup, let's go, Let's go. Like, guys, I want to feel my emotions. Fuck the feelings, You know, we don't have time for feelings. Let's go. No, I have feelings, guys. Like, I want to cry. Dang it. You know, I want to cry. But yeah, I get that. Like sometimes, even as a 4, like being emotionally open with somebody is like, I struggle with being like warm and like kind of resolved and connected versus being just like bleh, vomiting it all out of me. Like, oh, I just vomited the whole thing out of here. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just stop right there. Let's just calm down. I I overstepped quite a bit here. Sorry, kind of having that like that feeling, and I it's probably just how we're wired too, because you know tying back to the harmonic grouping and even like the Hornevian circles, like we're both withdrawn types. We withdraw into the emotions as 4s and withdraw into our own emotional world richness, versus 5s tend to withdraw into their head feeling, what they feel, they think about, their knowledge, relying on a system, relying on protocols and procedures like ones maybe. And when there's something going on in our life that makes you feel pain, we react differently too. I want to complain about how I feel, like my back hurts, for example, like, oh, I did all this stuff at work and my back hurts, and I worked so hard, and I want to hear somebody say, oh, good job, Brandon. You worked so hard. Like, good job, buddy. And you rub my back, and you'd be like, do you want to take anything for your pain? And they'd be like, no, I'm fine. But I kind of want to, but I'm not saying I want to do it because I don't want to look weak. But yeah, I kind of want to. Versus the 5 to be like, okay, my back hurts. I'm going to take Tylenol and then move on. It's data for them. And sometimes the data of a 4's emotions can be just like, it's like reading gibberish, or it's like reading another language when you move to another area. You're in France, you got all these green, you look at all the signs in French, and you're just like, I can't read this. What is this? Scary, and then you kind of want to pull back, and you want to just not be involved in it, or you maybe like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and you want to know more, and you look into like how this, you look into it emotionally, like not emotionally, you look into it linguistically, like you look at French and like Google Translate, or you look into like linguistics of like, this matches this structure, so this must mean this. So like, il fait beau, fait is May, and I know beau is beautiful. It makes beautiful. It is beautiful. It's oh, the weather is beautiful. That makes sense in this context here. Like, oh, or il fait froid. Froid is cold, or is like a variant of cold, and you're like, oh, it's cold. Then you look at the temperature, and it's like 0 degrees Celsius. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, connections, because 0 degrees Celsius is like 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cold. Oh, this makes sense, versus a 4 would be just like, I know it's cold. I don't. I want to go. I'd rather be dead. I just want to be dead. I'm just done. I'm just done. Heat myself up, and I don't even like coffee. But I don't have coffee because I want to feel warm, and yeah. And they would go through like, they want to complain about how they feel, as they're going to go get themselves taken care of. So there's a difference between like that type of thing. Or a 4, maybe it's like, I don't even know what they're saying. I'm okay with this. Fun. Exciting. And it just be like totally in the emotions of like, let's enjoy stuff. Like And keep in mind, we're all gonna have issues where we don't relate with each other because we're all different typings. That's beautiful in its own way. I still can't fathom how sixes can be so indecisive at times because they're just like, well, I mean, what if I don't do this? Like, I could just not do it. Or like even like hearing him like telling me he was talking about sevens and like them avoiding painful emotions, and I'm just like, guys, let's be deep. And they're just like, well, we could just go do fun stuff. I'm like, yeah, but like, what about this hard thing in your life? Let's just not do that. Let's just not deal with it. But that's not real. Like, that's not real. And part of it's also our own maturity level too. Like, I am not mature enough to deal with an 8. Like when they're angry, without myself being angry, and us like fighting about that. Like, but when I'm able to get aside of my anger, I can look at them and be just like, I really feel for the 8s. Like, because I realize that when I'm angry, I'm covering up my own emotions. My other emotions I don't want to address because it makes me feel like I'm weaker, or they look, people look down on me if I really felt. Like, I can get angry for not getting the help that I wanted when I didn't ask for help, but I didn't want anyone to just help me. I wanted someone specific to help me that wasn't even there. And I'm still angry about that. I'm just like Brandon, you're angry that they can't help you, but Brandon, they don't even work here. Hello, like, hello, Earth to Brandon, you know. But then, like, if I'm angry, I can be angry and volatile, and I can be from. I went from today. I went from being angry to sad to happy in like a matter of. We had a wind in the night, and connection is unstable. Please try again while we yeah. Connections. Connections. And I would say for life still. And for both buffering. And 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 buffering. See if I make a silly face. And buffering. 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 And buffering. So funny. That's so great. Yes, fours do romanticize about the past relationships that they've had. I remember when I was younger, I was like 14. And there was this girl that I was dating at one point. I was 14, she was like 12. So like, and granted, we were like kids, She'd be 28 now. I'd be pushing 30. So I know I'm getting old. But like, we were dating for like literally 3 days, and then she broke up with me. And I spent a long time being just like, what if we connected again? What if we started dating again? What if we started talking? What if we started connecting? What if we started doing stuff? And I could fantasize about that for a while. And I romanticize it because it's like, or I reminisce about it because it's like, it's something that keeps me happy and I'm excited and I enjoy that. But then I reminisce about things that also weren't healthy either, or things that never would have happened because logically that didn't ever happen. Like, there was a point where I used to live at, there was a neighbor that I really liked, and we were talking, and at one point she was single for a little bit, and I wanted to like hit on her and like get up in that. But she was like almost 18. I was maybe 15. I don't know how old I was. I was younger than her, like a couple years younger than her. But I wanted to like get up in that. And we never did connect to that level. And she never I don't think she'd ever see me that way anyway, because we were neighbors and stuff, and that'd be kind of weird. But like she had a kid rough around that time frame, like after, like in the next year she had a kid. And I was like, I reminisce, like, what if we had this dynamic where I could have fathered her kid with her, like kind of reminiscing. And like, granted, that's never like really happened. And like, even now, like when I think of like, even if we're talking about dating relationships, like I was talking about, there was a girl that I dated for a while now. I dated her for like about 3 years before I stopped dating entirely. And, she had a kid, and her kid was adorable. I loved her child. She was awesome. And, we dated for 3 years. It was awesome. Went to McDonald's. We went on dates. I paid for food a lot. We were dating. I ended up, like, I got connected with her. We had some little romantic escapades. I ended up seeing her. She made fun of me for this, but like she showed me like her whole area, and I was like, "What's that?" And she just started, the clueless little virgin over here, and I'm like, "What's that?" And she just like totally like went off on that. So, but she's like, I couldn't. She won't let me let that down. She won't let me let that down at all. Totally gone. But, it was awesome dating her for a while, but then we broke up because we had COVID, and COVID happened. We had the lockdowns, and, I wasn't seeing her as much anymore. And a part of me wanted that dynamic where we were connecting, and I wasn't getting that. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just not gonna bother with it. If we're not dating and I'm chasing, and I mean, we're dating in like the relationship dynamic, like we're still together as a boyfriend and girlfriend, but like I'm not taking you out on dates anymore. I'm not seeing you or your kid. I'm just a guy supporting you because you don't have a job at the moment because of the lockdowns. Like, and I don't mind supporting you. Just like I wanted to have that type of chase back. I wanted to have that reaction back where like you cared about me, and then I never got that, and so I got angry, and so I broke up with her. But like once in a while, I think about that too. Like I reminisce, and I'm just like, what if we stay together? You know, how would life look differently for me if we were together still? I don't know. Or even I remember a couple years ago, there was a girl that I was talking to that I had a little bit of an escapade with. Ended up like we were hanging out. We were like friends for like a long time. We know each other since high school, and we were talking, and we hung out at her house, and one thing to another. Next thing you know, she's like on top of me, and we're just like, it got heavy real quick, got heated, and then I went stupid for a little bit too, and I'm like, oh, dude, she likes me, oh, and I saw like I saw her whole everything, and I was enamored. And then I kept messaging her and talking about when we're gonna hang out next, and she wanted me to do X, Y, and Z, and like I went all like teenage boy goo goo gaga type of deal with her, and I'm just like, yo, like stop. And I'm just like, oh, you don't want that? oh, I'm sorry. I thought maybe we meant something together. And I'm just like, oh, no, we just, no. Well, okay then. And then like, nothing. So that happened. And at the end of the day, like romanticizing is like that's probably the something I think almost any type can do too, not just the sexual four. So, but I think with us, there's a lot more of romanticism to it than there's a lot more of romanticizing it, which means we pretty much like put on our rose tinted glasses and we look at the positives and we think about the feelings we've experienced and all our thoughts we've had, and we add into it more than it really needed to be added into. Like what could have been just me meeting somebody at the subway station, I look back on and I'm just like, yeah, she gave me that like vibe, but she was like into me, man. Like her eyes, like when her eyes lit up, she looked to me like this, and I could see it in her eyes, like had appeal. And like I can't even see her eyes right now because I'm nearsighted, but like I could tell she's looking at me. She's got that eye appeal. It's just like she's looking me up and down and side to side, and look like I have three heads, but like it's kind of interesting. She's into me. And did you see her like her lips? Like her lips kind of curled up a little bit when she was talking to me. Like, hey, how's your nearest? When she was talking about all those H words. Like, I mean, yeah, like you do that when you're talking about H stuff, but like, what if it's more than just that? What if she's like, into me? You don't know. Maybe she is. I mean, why else would she be smiling at me when she was talking about how the weather is today outside? It's wonderful and magnificent, beautiful. I mean, I know I am, but like, you know, she's like totally into me, man. Her eyes, man. She's got the eye like, yo, like I want to get with you. Like that, that's how me like time. When I was someone was like, oh hey, how's the weather today? And that's the entire conversation. But we may like romanticize it to the point where it's just like totally not what it was. So, and even reminiscing is like to some degree of like we do reminisce and reflect, and a lot of my journal stuff is me reminiscing a lot, to be honest. Like I reminisce about like what I've had in my life, like and I've just like gone all of that. It is what it is. Someone charges very sexual for X. I'm not sure if she still wants to be pursued, but completely move on after our argument. I re-added her and she added me back. Well, that's one of those things where sometimes people are people and people are confusing at times. Like, I know if when I think of when I think of my relationship, like, I don't want my exes back. Like, even if I do like, think about them a lot and I never really quite moved on, but like, I don't want them back. But there's okay, uh, scratch that. Let's go back. The very first girl I ever dated when I was like 14, her I want back. The only one I was like head over heels for, that I'm like, I'm destined for you. And then I'm just like, yeah. And then we don't even talk anymore. We haven't talked in like 15 plus years now. And I'm just the hopeless romantic for her. And just friend doesn't even exist anymore. But, I mean, even like charged histories in themselves, like there's always everyone has history with somebody, like, even if it's not like the most flattering of histories, like I I ended up so I wrote a story, and funniest thing is a story. I had a boss whose name is George. My name is George, and I didn't have a boss named George when I wrote at the workplace. There's a boss there named George, and I feel awkward about it because I know them from my story, but it's not them. But I can't get that association out of my head, like. And I understandably was not quite the best person around George in my story because the character, like, well, if he doesn't know, he doesn't need to know about this. What does it no one heard? He's not gonna care. He's not gonna care. He's not care about this. And then in the story, George's like, I would have cared. Like, hello, I would have cared, guys. You just leave me hanging like this. You did this thing. You did this thing, Larry. That's the antagonist name is Larry. You did this thing, and you blindsided me under the rug. Like I caught you right there as soon as I knew. Like, and not George, and I think of him, and I'm just like, yeah, I hope he doesn't like treat me that George would have treated me in the story because that would have been bad. Yeah, we're not doing that at all. Like, no. And like even like so like I haven't dated like seriously for like years. I mean I looked at dating and stuff, but like I can never seal the deal with people. Like I just can never like seal that type of dynamic. It's more just like I talk and that's it. We never had this like ceiling connection. So but hey, there's some people that I'm sure like that if they were in my spot, they would have been like, oh yeah, that guy's like the one that got away. And they'd be like, I'm the one that got away. What? What? I don't quite fathom what you mean here. Are you sure? Talking about the same person here, you know. But yeah, I think sexual fours are very different on their own because they're one type. I think Chestnut said they're not like a 4. They're like the non-4 because you don't think of them as being like you think of them almost like an 8. At least I think of them as an 8. Like sometimes I feel like I'm an 8 when I'm not an 8 because I'm a 4. Because an 8 wouldn't be crying about not being noticed. About not being noticed. And then you mad about not being noticed, and then like, nobody cares. Versus I'd be more like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm not crying, I'm not crying. Nobody cares. Or like even like so. I was angry about me not getting help one day at work this week, and out of the blue, my coworkers like gave me a coffee, and I was like my anger went from like what? Give me coffee? You care about me? I matter to you? Like what? Like you care about me? Like that's how I went from like angry to being just like, oh my gosh, my heart is touched, my feelings inside. Like I felt kind of happy for a little bit. I was drinking the coffee in like 2 minutes, but like once I realized they went to Sheets for coffee, and I was like, they went to Sheets for me? For just me, They went to get coffee for me. They went out of their way to spend money and gas on me. And I'm just being ungrateful and a little brat, to myself. And they cared about me enough to give me coffee. Like, it totally like made me like realize that I was being a real brat. Yeah, we're gonna say brat. And having that emotional like undertone and being like, oh, they care. Because an 8 would be just like, that okay. I guess I'll have this, fine, whatever. They would try to be indifferent about it. They wouldn't try to have that same like type of. They wouldn't have that switch inside. I think that the 4 would. At least actual 4 would. At least I would. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the biggest thing with them. And it's typical tribes of the society. Yeah. From what I've observed, they tend to form more shallow connections than actual substantial ones. Yeah, I feel like that's typically true. But at the end of the day, eights are more afraid about being vulnerable. And sometimes for them, it's shallowness is like better than being like substantial because until you're in their fortress, they're unless there's somebody that unless you're in their people, they're gonna almost come at you swinging. And you know, to the stereotypical Chads of the world, like, oh yeah, I get women, I get like 6 or 7 women at the same, I get 6, 7 women, I have all these women, I have 6, 7 figures of salary, I make money, I move stuff, I do stuff, I make stuff happen. They say Trump is an 8. If I want to go that route, I am the best president ever. I am phenomenal. Look at me. Look at what I've done for the country. What I do for America, for Trump Towers, Look at what I've done for the countries. They don't look at me and they go, Donald, I don't know how you don't even bother with this. You're so modest. I know, I am. I'm so modest. I only had one ballroom done for me because I'm the president and I wanted a ballroom because I wanted to play balls on there. I wanted to have this phenomenal spot on. I know I am. Thank you. Phenomenal. I know. Phenomenal. I'm very shallow. My hands aren't shallow because they're the biggest ones you've ever seen. They go, Donna, I don't know how your hands are so big. I'm like, I know. I was born this way. Thank you. But at the end of the day, people look at people like Donald and they're just like, it's pretentious, pompous and arrogant and pretentious. But sometimes they have that like pompousness to like almost be a guard for them. Because if they're being honest, like they may not like themselves or they may not want to be vulnerable to everybody like a 4 would or a 2 would or even like a 6 would. Because 8s have this core fear of being vulnerable and being powerless. And if I've learned anything from Rocket Man, it's this. You look at him, you good, and say, Rocket Man, no, I will not bow down to you because you are the bad guy. I'm the good guy here. Because it's America first. We're making America great again. No more rockets. I don't care what Russia's doing. No more rockets, What? Russia doesn't have rockets? Then what are we doing? Who are we? What? This isn't real life here? What? I don't know. Melania! What's her name? Melania? Ivana? Baron! Sharon! Stella! Okay, now we're off the rails here. Stella! Yeah. Anyway, but like I feel like 8s have that type of shallowness because they're being vulnerable. But when they find somebody they can trust and are deep with and raw with, they can be very tight with people. They can be very tight, very open, very connected with. And I think even in the back to you, they said about how let's say I find myself in here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah, so like in here and under stress and security for in back to you, it says for 8s, I highlighted this underneath it. In this space, 8s become secretive and hypervigilant about betrayal. They may dig their heels and become even more uncompromising than usual. That is something. Because they go to 5 when they're stressed out. They withdraw, they're less connected to people around them, and they neglect their emotions. But they're hypervigilant, they're defensive, they're a little bit more But when they go to 2, the healthier side of them, when they're secure in themselves, they become more caring and aren't so conscious of hiding their tender and gentle nature. 8s are pretty cute, They scare me. but like, it can be very like tender inside. But they tend to hide that. They tend to guard that up. Eights in the space don't insist on their own beliefs and opinions that are absolutely right because it's their way or the highway. They learn to listen and value other people's points of view as well. And I think maybe relying on nine wing also helps too with that because nines can see multiple perspectives because they're at the top of the Enneagram. I'm just saying, Tom LaHue said that, so it's gotta be true. Tom LaHue said that, so it makes sense to me. It's come to the plus side too, realize that justice is usually a reality beyond your control, and eventually something best left up to God, at least for now. Because just like with Rocket Man, I said no rockets, Rocket Man. He's like, okay, you win. I can't beat you, Donald. I like you. You did the art of the deal. Phenomenal book. I never read it, but it's a phenomenal book. Wait, I wrote it. Right, I wrote the book. Phenomenal. Don't let them know I didn't write the book because I can't say that I didn't write that because it's not true. But like, phenomenal book. Phenomenal bestseller. It was on The Apprentice. My show, The Apprentice. Phenomenal show. Best rated show. I have my own steak knives. Yeah, I love steak. Because I like steak and deals, man. That's what we do in America. Because America first. Okay, now we're jumping the shark with that. Okay. I did have somebody at work and they're just like, Brandon, let's get political. I'm just making jokes about stuff. Like, if it was the other guy, I still make out like, I don't know, was it Biden that's president? Biden? Yeah. I would have been like, hey, I like chicken. I like chicken. Brandon. I like ice cream. I like going out and I like going to get ice cream. And I like the hair. Like feeling my hair on my legs. Like my blonde hair. Yeah. I like ice cream. And falling upstairs. I did that once, or twice. It wasn't fun. They caught me on camera. It was embarrassing. Fun fact. I fell up one stair once. Super embarrassing. I was at work. I went up and I fell off the stair and I went straight down. I caught myself, but I was super embarrassed. But yeah, eights tend to be stereotypical chads. They tend to be like, the bad boys, if you will. And I feel like they are more afraid of Shadow Connect. They want to be shallow because they can put on a facade. They want to own the space when they walk into them. And everybody look at it and be like, yo, here I am. Hold your applause. Here I am. I'm the man, the myth, the legend. Look at me. Look what I've done. And even at the end of the day, oh, no, my drink. I still have my Starbucks. I didn't finish it yet. But like, even at the end of the day, like a lot of the time with eights is they want to be almost like the Billy Baydays. So I'm not saying a word because I want to be censored because we're on a live stream. Yeah, Brandon, don't swear. Gosh dang it. Take it out. Yeah. But like, I like having that like, yeah. Eights tend to want to be harder to see. They're harder to read. They want to own the space. They want to walk in the room and be the source of the attention. And I like, even like with me as a 4, like sometimes I want to walk in the room and be like, yo, look at me. I'm the cat's meow. And then eights are like, no, I am the big deal here. You're just here. Like, I'm the big deal. But while I would be crying with somebody because of their breakup with their coworker or breakup with their boyfriend, or hearing them talk about how much life sucks and they're just like, I feel like life doesn't matter. And I'd be like, but life matters, man. I can be really deep with them and raw. And the eights are like, you got problems. You need to work on that. We need to just bulldoze life together because there's a power above us, trying to fight with us and take out the man, and we gotta fight with we gotta own the power, we gotta tell him who's boss. Yeah, because you need to live up for what's fair for you, man. Let's go fight the man. You said you're having problems. We should you're having problems with your landlord. We should go call him up. Yeah, let me talk to him. I'll negotiate with him. I got your corner. I'll be in your corner. I'll take you out. I'll be on your corner. I'll fight with you. I got your back. But the moment they have a problem, they have to fight with it themselves because they fear if they have somebody that they're almost like owed a favor to, that makes them weaker than how they want to present to the world because they want to be seen as tough and at times almost like a bulldozer or like a bull on a china shop. But even bulldozers need to have gas. Even bulls need to recharge. And even bulls have a soft spot, for their friends and loved ones or partners. I think they would. I don't think bulldozers would have that same effect of like, "Ooh, look at that cute little building." If I just wrecked it, you know, wall breaks down, and it's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Oh, that's so cute. Oh, so adorable. I don't think they have that same dynamic there. And the fun thing with eights is they have on the side of them their wings are seven and the nine. The nine helps them be a little more mellow, a little more peaceful, a little bit more like not as aggressive as you typically read about the eights. And the seven is more about like to have fun. Let's be spontaneous. Let's do some fun stuff. Like I think my boss that's an eight, I think he's a wing seven because he has some zany moments in his life where he's a little more zany, a little bit more fun. But he's also like not really much of a it could be also not he could also heavily evolve in his nine wing too, because he's not really like he's able to different perspectives and different points of view, and he's able to be a little more mellow. And I've never seen him really get angry except like once. And when he yelled, like he didn't even yell at me, but like I was like petrified. I was like quivering in my pants, like petrified. And I wasn't even like he was even mad at me. I was just more just like I was like, dude, chill. Like my hair was on the back of my end here, and I was kind of like timid of that. Like he generally scared me for them a bit, to be honest. And I don't, but at the end of the day, he's also like very warm, compassionate. When there's people in his life who need help, he's been there to help them because he's gone through that. He's had a rough upbringing where he didn't have a place to live for a long time, so he's like, job, house crashing, couch surfing, Brandon, couch surfing, like kind of like bouncing around from place to place, like kind of living life kind of on the rough side of life. And because of his upbringing and him going through all of that stuff, he's been known to help others who are going through hard patches because he's been there. And that's him like protecting those who he cares about. And I don't know if you'd ever like see him in like I don't even ever see that in a compassionate way of like, oh yeah, I'm caring about them because I value and I love them. He's more just like, they're defenseless. They need to be protected. They need to be treasured. They need to be cherished. They need to be respected because they're people. And I care about them a lot. I may never be like open in like how I feel about them, like because I want to make sure they're okay. But like, even his friends, I think he has like one or two friends he's like close with, but that's it. I think. And even with his own friends, he's kind of like, they still make me mad. Like, he has moments where he's been like kind of transparent with me about like other coworkers, and like our 6 coworker friend, like she gets on his nerves like a lot. I don't know how he put up with her. 'Cause I know if I was him, I would have been like out the door. So yeah. It's been fun hanging out on the live stream with you, buddy. It's been a lot. It's hard to believe it's been like an hour and a half already just live streaming and like just talking and like just filling the air. It's been awesome. Let's see if I can find any more about the 8 while I'm in here. Bum. I just keep opening up to the 6s. My stories are really soothing. I try to be soothing, and a lot of people think that way too. Imagine me talk. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Brandon, don't be thankful. Yeah, be thankful. Don't be. Yeah. Just take it out of the. Yeah, be thankful. Yeah. Yeah, Brandon. Yeah. Uh. I am still looking through my I'm running a car now. So yeah, one of the things I have highlighted in here is my mother will tell you that female 8s are the most misunderstood and unfairly treated number on the Enneagram. In our culture, a male 8 is respected and revered. People lionize men who kick ass and take names. Their words, not mine. Sadly, we all know the word people use to describe a woman in the workplace or in the community to charge, stands up for what she believes in, who's take crap from anybody, and gets the job done. And I have some 4-letter words on the page that I wrote down, and a 5-letter word that, yeah, I don't need to spell it out for you, right? But that's one of the things too. Like, you don't think of an 8 as a female at times too, because you think of 8s as like, like Donald Trump or Dwayne the Rock Johnson, who, or even Nicolas Cage. Like, an 8 could be like, have you ever seen Willy's Wonderland? Like, in that movie, Nicolas Cage doesn't say a single line at all. He goes through the whole thing. He fights the animals. He kicks their butts. Doesn't say a single word to anybody in the entire movie. He goes in. He takes a space. He takes care of business. And he moves on. When I think of Nate, I think of something into that, but a lot more vocal than just like sizing up people and just bam, bam, thank you, ma'am type of deal. So that's kind of what I may think about with that. And a part of the time, I think, with 8s is they tend to also really value like being being I had a moment where I just like totally went off in my head. I lost my head. But I don't want to use my head. Hit the vent. Toy Story 2 reference, if you didn't know that movie. Phenomenal movie. I saw Toy Story 2 before I saw Toy Story 1. And I was kind of confused about why Woody was so mean in Toy Story 1 because he was like best friends with Buzz in Toy Story 2. I was so mean. I was so confused. Oh, and another thing that about 8s that I didn't have it highlighted in here, but under the section 8s when being in control, it says in here that 8s worry that if they own up and apologize for their behavior, i.e. sometimes being the bully or being the boss, in a bad way, you know, you will bring it up and use it against them in the future. It's any consolation when, in silence of their own hearts, they realize they hurt somebody they love. They may as well beat themselves up mercilessly as long as they are convinced they're wrong. So, even if they do sometimes seem shallow and superficial, they really do want to be right and they want to make sure that nobody looks down on them. And sometimes eights are kind of that way because they don't often have that type of like grace for themselves, even. So it's kind of sad. And sometimes I'm that way too as a four. Like, I can beat myself up because I've done stuff that I should have known better, did know better, did anyway, didn't get in trouble for, but I know I should have done better. And I did something I did something I should have just not done to begin with. And I just lived in that for a little bit where I'm just like, yeah, I'm bad. I'm really bad. So bad. Like, I remember one point I was in 5th grade, social studies class, and we had this assignment where I was supposed to like do this project for like on another country. And now, mind you, I didn't have internet growing up. I had dial-up internet, and I didn't really have like the best like respect for like schoolwork and stuff when I was a kid. So like, I legit straight up lied to my teacher saying I did this assignment, but I didn't do it at all. Like, I didn't with me. Just couldn't grade it because I didn't have it in the area. So like, I lied to her face, in front of the whole class. And I feel so bad about that still. I don't know if they realize I did that, and they probably won't even know. But like, I feel so bad about that. Like, but I would never admit that I was wrong. I would never admit that I did that. But I mean, now I'm on camera, so like, I guess now they know. I mean, yeah, I'm on camera. They're gonna know, Brandon. Now the world knows. Well, you know, one audience member knows. Everyone knows. They all know. You're exposed. It's like in the Simpsons. You're a phony. He's a phony, everybody. He can't play the piano. He can't play the piano. He's a phony. But Marge. Oh, homie. Yeah. Is that a smoker? Sound like a smoker there. Oh, homie. That's terrible. It's terrible. Terrible. This makes no sense. It's terrible. Just awful. But yeah, I feel like a lot of times with eights, like eights are one of the harder ones to always like kind of root for because they're known as the scary types. Like, I remember Tom and Hughes said they're like the mafia. They have that kind of energy to them, that kind of vibe. And I think of the fours like just being drama queens a lot of the time. So like the drama queen, dramatic, like, oh, look at me, I'm suffering and all of this. I'm just gonna collapse and die. It's so terrible. Oh, nobody cares about me. Nobody said hello on my social media post today. Oh my god, it's awful. Would you leave me alone, bird? You're not helping anything. You're just knocking around like nobody cares. Just yeah. Okay, Brandon, stop being dramatic. But I want to be dramatic. I get that from my dad. I think so. I don't know. Whatever. Feel like I'm just doing stand up, but it's whatever. It's a chill live stream. We have no real agenda today. We're just kind of hanging out, sharing stories, catching up on life, hanging out, enjoying each other. Yeah, I think so too. Sean Strickland. Hope I pronounced that right. MMA fight. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like them are kind of like that. I don't know the guy personally. I don't watch MMA, but yeah, I would think of that as like a type of physical physique is like that. If he's like Dwayne Johnson's kind of build, kind of just like muscular, beefy. He kind of owns the space. It's kind of like Mike Tyson. You know who he is, and you know not to mess with him because he'll take your ear off. Scary guy. So scary. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of times, like, people like that are sort of, like, they're stereotypicalized eights or stereotypical. Like, I think of when I think of French people, I think of fours. People I think of fours are French people. So, who was talking to me? Leave me alone on my phone emails. I got notifications. Oh. People notice me. The funny thing is, sometimes I'll talk, like, when I have moments where I'm like emailing somebody, or like I'm doing a video. What? Sorry, my one Facebook friend is like talking to me. The girl that there's this one girl that I like, that I'm trying like to like kind of into, that I've been like subtly being like, hey, nothing. Yeah. And I just kind of don't care. I don't want to talk at their whole thing out here. So, relationship drama. I'm just like, if you only knew I was right here. Hey, I'm here. Hello, but no. You just don't care that I'm not here. Whatever. Okay, Brandon. Yeah, now I'm on Facebook. I'm just scrolling on Facebook now. That's why I don't like being on my phone sometimes. I just get subject about doing random stuff on Facebook. I'm like looking at someone's someone's Facebook page. I'm like, Brandon, let's get back to reality here. I said back to reality here. Let's put the phone. We're putting the phone down, okay? Okay. Brandon. Putting the phone down. Okay. Okay, you're putting it down. The phone is down. The phone is down. It's right over there. My hands are free. You're down. I have the photo of one of my friends. So, in my at my workplace, we have we can do photos with the characters. There's a photo of myself, the person in the suit, and they were messing around with my hat that I wear once in a while when I'm there. And you can see it in the photo, like when it's the zoomed out photo, my hat is in the frame of the photo. Oh my gosh. And they feel so bad about like messing, like, dude, don't worry about it, man. Like, it's fun, it's connection. Like, and I think they're I don't know what type they are. I think between a 5 and a 9. Mainly because I think with them being I say they're a 9 because they tend to be on a more like timid. They don't want to really express themselves a lot more. They're kind of a little less like assertive. They feel like their own needs don't matter. They're kind of just like, whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. I just, do, you're more important than I am. Let's just do your thing. And I wanted them to be more assertive last year, like trying to push that assertiveness. And I remember one time, it's going to be like really personal, like not super personal, like deep, but like, one moment, guys. right, there we go. So, a little personal story here. They really like stuffed animals, and they were playing with like, cause they got this at the arcade. They've had some other animals they got at the arcade, and them and the boss have a matching stuffed animal. And I think they were messing around. And one time, one of the animals like went like, instead of having it went like this, where like it's shifted entirely, and she was in hysterics, and I felt really bad for her, like seeing her cry and stuff. And she was like all emotional, and I looked at I stood there watching kind of the whole thing, like, in the background, and she was crying. And she finally asserted herself, and she was like, "When you did this, I felt so bad," and, she was crying, and, she was very it was kind of a little sad, but, like, I felt for her. And, she's my social person, so, like, I'm naturally gonna have this, like, affinity towards defending her. But, I waited, she's asserting herself. She's being assertive in the moment, like telling the boss, like they were playing around with their stuffed animals. So like, and she said afterwards, like, I felt so bad, I'm this old and I need, I'm whining over something. I'm like, hey, no, no, don't feel that way. Like the feelings are real to you. It's kind of my big thing. Feelings are real to you. Like it doesn't matter what someone else may say. Do I think it's silly? A little bit. Did the boss think it's probably silly? Yeah. They didn't think it was silly. They might have thought that after they were done whining and complaining about it. But the touching thing here, I'm getting to the point of this. So when they went like this for their stuffed animal, like their animals, whatever. And then they were like, I gotta go talk to my dad and make sure he's okay. Cause like my dad looks after my animals and stuff. And I was kind of like, my feelings. And, then I asked them as they were crying, I was like, can I look at your stuffed animal? And then she's just like, yeah, and then she handed me the stuffed animal, and I looked it over, and you know, I'm thinking this entire time, the stuffed animal is gonna be okay. It's a stuffed animal, like it's gonna be just fine. It's gonna be just fine. But taking this with a grain of salt, not like a grain of salt, like in a bad way, but like taking this with a grain of like respect for her, and I realize I'm stepping into like this territory of like her dad does this thing. It's still a ritual. I want to make sure she's okay. And so I looked over the animal, I give it an eye over. I almost give it like a doctor's look up. I look at it. I give it its little movements. I, look it over. I gave it a little movement. I give it a little tweak. I turn around. Give it a little look over like this. I make sure it's all good. Tail looks fine. I look down. I carefully like hand him back to her, and I'm like, he's fine. And she's like, he is? Yeah, he's fine. He's fine, sweetie, Like, and they're just like, oh, and then they're never happy afterwards. And then so that was like the beginning of the season. Like, flash forward to one night we were in the van driving from parade. And a similar thing happened where they had another stuffed animal that was in a weird position, and then they had a little bit of a freak out. And I think they asked me, "Hey, did you look at him?" And I was just like, "Okay." And I thought of like this previous moment I've had with him before, and I was just like, "This means something. Like this means something to me, Brandon. Like signal, signal, signal." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hear. Like, oh my gosh, this is a thing." And and then I took care of it. I looked it over. I gave it an eye over. I felt it up. I felt not that way, you pervert. Sorry, terrible joke. Oh my god, funny. Oh, oh my god, it's funny. But like I filled it up, made sure it was okay. I gave it testing thing. And I tested it out. And I gave her the animal back, and I was like, he's fine. And it was nice of her to and she was like feeling bad about herself for being like, I shouldn't feel this way. I'm this old. I shouldn't be feeling this way. But it's like, hey, it's your stuffed animal. You can feel bad however you want to feel. Screw everybody else. They don't matter. And funnily enough, one time they were assertive with me once they were assertive a couple times, which I value that they were assertive with me because I like seeing them having that assertion that helps them realize they have a voice. And one time we were outside in the park, and it's the one I'm going to share because it's a little more for me. And we have this umbrella for whenever we're outside in the rain. And I get this umbrella, get out there, and I'm standing outside. They have the golf cart behind us, and they literally got the umbrella out of my hand and they pointed at they went like this back to the golf cart, and I'm just like, and they're like, and I was like, okay. So I literally went to go and sit down, because they asserted that I had to sit down. But oh my gosh, it was so fun. It was so fun seeing them having that assertion. Having that assertion and being a little more like, hey, yo, Brandon, hey, guess what? Doing a thing. So, man, my battery looks like it's low on here. I had a full battery earlier, and I'm down to 30%. I got an hour and 30 minutes left, guys. Oh no! What should I do? Oh, I could just plug it in. Oh wait, it's using my battery on here. Oh, whatever. Fine. Be dramatic. Fine, computer. Fine. Go down on me. What you gonna do? Stop? Huh? You gonna do stop on me? And then I get the random buffering signal on my phone. Hotspot be like, oh yeah, you want to have this? Bam, buffering. Please wait. But literally, I had that moment where seeing them assert themselves is refreshing for me, because it's like, oh, they're finally having some authority. They're having some assertion, because they're growing up. They're young, young adult age range. I don't really want to say too much without doxing them. And I'm 10 years a senior, so I'm 29. So that's kind of they're 10-ish years a senior. So that's good. So if I was gonna go with saying their age and stuff like that. So I'm the older guy in this dynamic. But it's nice seeing them growing up and having that assertion now, because I know when I was younger, I didn't have that. And I wish somebody was like that with me. Voice, letting me say that I have this opinion and I can be respected, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it doesn't seem like it's important for the grand scheme of things. In 20 years, am I gonna remember I had this stuffed animal experience? No. I remember in 20 years I told this guy to sit on this golf cart, when it was raining, because he wanted him to stay dry. Probably not. I'll remember having those experiences leading me up to being more assertive now as a older, mature woman. Having that maturity, having that authority. Authority. Okay. That happened. I don't know. You're getting dicey, Brandon. But I would appreciate having that authority, as you're growing up, having that authority implemented when I'm younger, to be able to be stepping stones for me. And I think also of them them being a 5, I think with them it's more they relate with knowledge. and that's how I think of them as a 5. They're also on the spectrum, so, like, I don't wanna just say all 5s are autistic 'cause that's not true. I don't think every 5 is an autistic person, since I think I'm autistic. So, would that make me then I'm a 5? No, I'm a 4, like, "Come on, Brandon," you know? But, like, they relate to the world with knowledge a lot of the time, and so, like, they could tell me the whole lore of Undertale. For example, I never played Undertale. I know, like, some of the characters in Undertale, but I don't know the whole background. They can tell me the whole lore of Undertale. And for them, it's a way for them to relate to people with knowledge. I have this knowledge, we're connecting, I'm sharing this with you. Like, even doing what we're doing now with this live stream, like, it's a similar thing. I'm sharing my life with you. We're connecting, we're having this dialogue, we're talking in the live chat, back and forth, we're having this connection. I feel like I'm making a difference in the world, you know? And I can be talking in, like, even if there's nobody, like, in here, like, I've had times where I talk to, like, literally nobody but me, watching myself on my own over here. Like, I've done that. And I feel like it's just, me talking like I am now. Just there's no, like, chat in the corner being like, hey, Brandon, cool, talking back and forth, like sharing that information with me. Hopefully that happened. And like the commentary, comment section, Brandon. Commentaries when you're making a film and talking over it, Brandon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's stupid. Hey, that's not what I said. Dirt. What am I gonna do with him? He's getting on my nerves. No one knows how he's gonna be mad. He's gonna be so mad at me. Anyway, but like in all honesty, though, like relating to people, having knowledge, sharing that with the world, they're relationalists. It's how they connect with the world around them. I, I think, I think, I can't remember what the other types are. To look that up, I don't know how many. I think 9s are. Wait a minute. They're I'm gonna look this up. Relationalists. Enneagram. See what triad is. Let's just rejection triad. Pragmatists. 9s are pragmatists. I found on the Reddit post. Yeah, Brandon, let's get the page right. There's a camera. Phone. Camera, phone. I think I would know that by now. I think I've been doing this before. I know where the camera is. But yeah, so I'm an idealist. The 9s are pragmatists. So basically what that would mean is like as a pragmatist, they tend to engage with the environment as like they want to keep peace, they want to be non-conflict focused. They want to just basically deal with life and ready to roll through how the world operates. They want to keep the peace, they want to keep harmony, they want to be focused on that. And with them not being assertive, at least really assertive, that kind of dials into that type of dynamic. Meanwhile, I'm an idealist, which means that while I may fantasize about this whole dynamic of like us being together, us talking, even doing live streams, and being like, oh yeah, people are gonna watch me, and I get nothing. Nothing. No one watches me. No one watches it for like weeks upon end. Nothing. Desert dry green. And I could be like, that was subpar. and I get mad about that. Or I have this event of like, oh, I'm gonna go to Disneyland, and I'm so hyped up about it, and then I go and I get bummed about like I couldn't ride one of the rides that I wanted to ride. I couldn't ride Space Mountain, and I'd be so bummed about that because it ruins the whole like I want to go to ride Space Mountain, and I'm like so bummed. I could have been the only one riding a Haunted Mansion ride. I could be the only one that saw a rare costume character at the park at Disneyland. I could have been the only one that got a Mickey autograph that day. But I would still be mad about not having to ride Space Mountain because I was my ideal plan. You just do it's what you do. You ride Space Mountain. You can go see Mickey, but like there's Space Mountain there. What else would you do? That's the big thing. I mean, you can go and have the food if you want to have the food and see the fireworks, but like there's Space Mountain. That's the stuff, man. But like that's how we relate to the world around us. We each have different approaches. And so the relationalist triad, they tend to relate to the world through people. And out of the other types in that triad are the 2s and the 5s. 2s and the 8s, Brandon. 2s and the 8s. 8s are going towards people with people. And then 2s are going at people like to help subserve, to be subservient to them. Subservient to them and like help them, serve them, take care of them. And with the idealist triad, they're the 4s, the 1s, and the 7s. 1s have this ideal perspective of the world has to be better, it has to be this specific way. We should have, in an ideal world, there'd be no pain, there'd be no trauma, there'd be no nothing of any terrible nature. And yeah, that would happen, but we're not in an ideal world. And while I have this idealized fantasy scenario, and I'm mad when it doesn't happen, a 7 may could be like, yeah, we're live streaming, but like we could be playing in the rain right now. We could be doing laundry right now. We could be doing laundry while in the rain. Like we could be doing jet skiing, We could be going jet skiing off the mountaintop, Okay, Brandon. Or like I live outside of I live near a shale hill. I could be driving on the shale hill. I could be like running off of that. I could be enjoying life. I could be exciting and engaging in that type of scenario. That'd be awesome. Would that happen? Maybe not. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But if I was a fan, that's how I may see the world. I may be looking at what I could be doing. That's exciting and fun and opportunistic. But I'm stuck doing the boring adult stuff, or I'm stuck doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm live streaming. Ooh, look at me. I'm live streaming for 2 hours now at this point. Ooh, look at me. Like, okay, Brandon. Versus the pragmatist, which is the unhinged triad, which is the 9, 3s, and the 6s. The 9s want to keep peace with the world around, and they want to work for that peace. They want to keep that peace. They would do anything to keep that peace going. And actively, the 3s are working to make themselves look better, to be more. If they need to cut corn to get where they need to get done, they'll cut that corn to get that done. And 6 are relying on the bodies around them, the government bodies, the structures in their authority places to keep them going because they have that safety net that they need to have. And that's how every type relates the world around them in that dynamic of that triad. I think that's the harmonic triad. The harmonies triad, the harmonies. Because harmonic is how they deal with pain. And Harnevian is their stances. Yeah. Your battery's low. And you have to leave. Okay, cool. No problem, man. It was fun talking to you. I might leave pretty soon too, because my battery's running low on my laptop. I'm down to 27% now. Now I have to have that charged. You have a good day, buddy. It was awesome hanging out with you. And yeah, with that being said, I'm probably gonna need to wrap it up too, because I'm gonna have to also hit the bathroom at some point too, because I haven't gone since I ate. So that being said, guys, I will leave you guys to it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys take care. I'll see you guys next weekend with my regular routine video. I might do another live stream 2 weeks from now at that point, just until I get my backlog filled out, depending on how my workflow is going to look like. I don't know for sure. Take care, guys. I hope you guys are true to yourselves, because as Tom Hughes said. Take care, guys. Goodbye.